And we are now on YouTube, and I'm so excited to share this information with you. Today we're talking with Clint Ober. And if you haven't heard the name Clint Ober, you're going to hear it over and over and over again today, because I am really excited about this product called ground therapy. It's a healing modality. And if you have been diagnosed with pain, or if you're in pain, joint pain, whatever kind of pain, or have inflammation in your body of any kind, this is the show for you. Welcome to the classroom, Clint Ober. And everybody fasten your seatbelt, because we're going to learn and grow together. Here we go. It's time to dance.
The Lillian McDermott Show.
We love, we fear, bridges we burn, we make mistakes, then we live and learn. When life gets tough, and it seems like your best ain't good enough. If you're in need of hope, you know where I'll be right here. Right here, and when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here, waiting for you.
This is the place you can always turn to when you need a friend. The Lillian McDermott Show. To reach out to Lillian, visit her on the web at whenyouneedafriend.com. Now let's all learn together. Here's Lillian McDermott.
Hello, my listening friends and my viewing friends on Facebook Live at Lillian's radio show. It's such a beautiful day, and I'm so glad that we are meeting each other on the air. And for those of you who have been listening to the Lillian McDermott radio show / classroom since 2011, or maybe tuned in yesterday for the first time, welcome back. But if this is the first time that you're tuning in, please know that I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go to when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide alternative ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth about a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening, as well as my viewing friends on Facebook Live, facebook.com/Lillian's radio show, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Now, I've been saying, bringing this modality to my doctors. I've heard about this modality. It's called grounding. There are different kinds of grounding. There's pulse electromagnetic frequency beds, which I have brought to my doctors as a marketing representative, bringing healing modalities to my doctors that are outside the box. And so I love that. But then I found something even better. And as a medical marketer and curious student of life, I'm always looking for different things that I can bring to you, my listening and viewing friends. And so I struck gold, and I have been kind of hinting around about it, but it's called grounding. Now, I've been grounding, and you've seen many pictures of the beach for many years, as I live about a half a mile from Cape Canaveral, from the beach there. And so here's what happens when you walk barefoot on the beach. You feel the earth's energy come through you, and we're going to talk a little bit more with Clint Ober on how these effects heal our body. Now, Clint Ober nearly had a near-death experience when he realized it was time to use his skills as an electrician, as someone who works with electrical fields, to change his life. And he did. And not only did he change his life, he's changing all the lives that learn about ground therapy. And I'm so excited. I've got show and tells here. Oh, I just knocked over the movie. And by the way, anyone who sends me a text at 407-373-5959 will get a free viewing of the Earthing movie, which is phenomenal. I saw it myself. My husband and I have seen it a couple of times, and now you can view it too. You can instant message me at Lillian's Radio Show. That's at facebook.com/Lillian's Radio Show. or you can text me or call me at 407-373-5959, and I will send you your link to view the movie. And so we're excited that Clint is bringing all his knowledge and his love in the classroom, and I am so excited that he's here to do just that. Welcome, Clint, to the Lillian McDermott radio show / classroom.
Well, thank you, Lily. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share earthing and grounding. And I hope we make it a lot of fun for everybody.
I hope. Well, I have it. Listen, anyone who would dance like that with me, like on the fly, it's going to be a great lesson today. So thank you so much for indulging me and dancing with me on chair dancing.
That's what keeps me young.
That's right. Absolutely. So speaking of young, you said you're 75 years old, and I would have never guessed that. And so obviously you've had a life before today, and I would love for you to share a little bit about your background and what led you to your passion on grounding.
Okay. Well, that's the first question that I'm often asked is, who are you? Where'd you come from? How did you discover this? How did you come across this?
Yes.
So I'll just start at the beginning. I was when I was young, I was raised in a agricultural, animal husbandry environment. We had cows. I was a cowboy. And I remember my granddad putting me on a horse, and he said, your job is you're a cowboy, but not like Roy Rogers, but you're a cowboy, meaning that you are going them, because we had about 800 in this herd. And if you see any cow, a cow that's got glassy eyes or bawling or not acting like the other cattle, then we have to take them out of the herd and we put them into a pen. And then we go ride the pasture, make sure the grass is not too short, make sure that there's no noxious weeds, make sure the water's okay, make sure there's not a dead animal upstream or something, because something in the pasture made the cows sick. And we have to immediately get on top of it, because the concept is if the pasture is pristine and clean, the cows will be healthy. If it's not, you have to call the banker and the vet at the same time and toss them the keys, and you're out of here, because you will go broke if you don't have health in the animal world. So anyhow, I grew up kind of with that mentality. And then I remember Prevention magazine always being in the home. There was a little magazine that used to be out many years ago. I don't know if it's I don't know if it's still in existence or not, but I religiously read that. And it's basically the apple a day concept. And so I have this kind of that kind of a background. And then I also grew up with Native Americans. Some of my best friends growing up were Native Americans. And they're kind of they look at everything differently. And it's kind of challenging to say something simple that comes across that explains it. But to them, everything is connected, everything is one. And it's, everything affects everything. And so anyhow, so it's kind of earthy. I mean, everything about my early life is earthy. I grew up in the dirt. Barefoot is often was more likely barefoot than not, and so on. But anyhow, after I grew up in that environment, I ended up going into the communications industry in Montana, where they were just starting to figure out the cable television. Back then it was called community antenna television. And so if one town had one or two TV signals, the run down the road 100 miles may only have one or two. And so and a lot of people in between couldn't see them. So they had to put an antenna up on top of a little mountain and then run a wire down into the homes or down to the homes. And then people could it was just a community antenna. So everybody could get cable or get TV. And then, so I got involved in that very early on, and it just appealed to me. And because I come from a town that had two TV channels, a right and a left, and it was, it was all about nonsense. But once I could see that there was a possibility that you can see news or TV from Denver or from LA or from Atlanta or wherever, it just totally just captured my interest. So I spent nearly 30 years in that industry. And the main thing in that industry that I took for granted, I never gave it a thought until many years later, but in that industry, you have to ground everything to the earth. Like a telephone wires, everything in the air, cable wires, everything has to be grounded to the earth before the wire can go into the home.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for it is because you have static electricity on the lines, you have electromagnetic interference from radio stations, airline, local, like anything from an ambulance to sheriff's office to police, everything. I mean, hundreds of environmental
Sure.
radio signals.
Sure.
So everything has to be grounded to the earth and shielded so that you get a clean, perfectly clean picture on your TV set.
Mm-hmm.
And you get good sound and you get good data. Like today, it's especially important that we have everything's grounded. Otherwise, you get glitches and noise and cross-mod interference, all kinds of things. So anyhow, that's so I spent 30 years in that industry. I ran one of the largest companies that was involved in the service industry of building out and the installations of the cable systems. And so anyhow, that was all good, and it was a nice business to be in. And when I turned, I think I was 49, 50, I was living in Denver, Colorado. And I just have to fill in the blanks here to make it make sense. But anyhow, I had just, I was living on a mountaintop in Evergreen, Colorado. 50, going on 50, the average typical guy, 50 years old, had been, going to play king of the mountain, so on. But anyhow, that Christmas, I got very, very sick. And I had been to a bunch of Christmas parties before, and they had some hepatitis going around, and they thought it might be that. But every time I kept going into the doctor testing it, they said, that test didn't confirm that it was hepatitis, so they thought it was something else. But I kept getting yellower and worse and didn't know what to do. So one evening I had to go to the emergency room, and I could barely walk. And so I went in, and then while I was in there, they put me in a CAT scan in the emergency room, and to try to figure out what was going on because it was affecting the liver. So what they found is I had a big abscess in my liver.
Ooh.
And so they actually took a needle that was probably 12, 16 inches long and stuck it in my side, went in, and it may not have been that big, but it seemed like it, and actually drained the abscess out of the liver. And the next morning, the doctor who was in charge, he came in and he said, "We have some good news for you, and we have some not so good news." The good news was that they had figured out what it was, that they said it was something from the mouth, and they wanted to know if I'd been bitten by anybody. I said, no. They said, "Have you had any dental work?" I said, yes. About a month before, I had a root canal.
Ooh.
And so somehow or another, the root canal probably triggered this abscess.
Oh.
And because I'd been partying for a month in the holidays and everything, my immune system was probably compromised.
Sure.
And so a lot of people get, when they have those kind of issues, it'll attack the heart or the lung, and rarely the liver, but I was one of the rare ones. So anyhow, but the bad news, or not the bad news, the not so good news was that I was young enough to get a new liver and I was healthy, but they didn't know if I had time to get a new liver, because the liver was so compromised. And so they sent me home. I was on a half a dozen, seemed like IVs and drips and antibiotics, all that kind of stuff. And about 3 or 4 days later, I mean, it was a shock. I mean, it was a real shock. I can't express how shocking it was, because here you're going along and you're 50 years old, everything's going your way, and then you hit the mountain.
Exactly.
And so many people do that. I mean, especially guys in their 50s. But anyhow, a couple days, 3 days later or so, a young surgeon from one of the hospitals called, and he said they wanted to do some experimental surgery. They wanted to go in and cut out as much of the liver as they could and save the little piece that's connected to the main artery going in. And the other side was healthy enough, the little lobe on the left side. So they went in, they opened me up. I had no idea if I was going to survive or not, but they opened me up and they cut out the larger part of my main lobe.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was in ICU, and I remember waking up, and I really wasn't sure because I was in so much pain. I didn't know if I wanted to wake up
Yeah,
when
sure,
I went into the surgery.
sure.
But anyhow, I remember, and just for a little humor, I had a lady that had worked for me for many, many years, and she had retired about 3 years earlier. And I woke up in ICU, and I looked up, and here she is standing next to me, looking at me. And I looked up here and I said, I didn't know that you had died because I assumed I had died.
You thought she was
And
here for you, or
yeah, so, but anyhow, then the pain started coming on. And then I recognized that, I'm still here and so on. But, but to take it, so how does this all relate? Let me go to the next step. After that experience, I was laying in bed one day at home, and I tell this, I have to tell it the way it happened. I looked out the window, and there's pine trees and everything out there, and clouds and blue sky, and I everything was vibrant. It was electric. I mean, the pine needles were electrical. I mean, they were vibrating, electric in color, and I'd never seen anything that blue before. That energetic feeling. And shortly after that, I looked around the room, and I had everything you could imagine for living on a mountaintop in Evergreen, Colorado. 5,000 square foot, one bedroom, A-footing home. It was more like a lodge. And so anyhow, I recognized that all these things I had collected and that I'd spent my life acquiring, they were that, had I died, they would have been, kids would have come and got what they wanted, and the rest would have been donated or whatever. So I just had this feeling come over me. I didn't want to own anything, and I let everything that I gave everything I had away to my kids and whoever. I never went back to work at the business I was involved with. I turned that over, and I really got rid of everything because when at that time when I was in that trouble, I felt worse about that my life, that I hadn't done more with my life other than about money or about those kind of things.
sure.
Because before I went into surgery, I remember having visions about some of the Native American and some of the spiritual stuff that just naturally comes up at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyhow, I sold everything home, everything in Evergreen, and I bought a small RV, and I went on a road trip for 4 years. And I went and spent most of that time in RV parks,
Mm-hmm.
national RV parks, great county, state RV parks, and stop and see my kids along the way. Didn't go see a lot of other people, but I knew I didn't want to be involved with business or making money. I wanted to make my life about something more
You
important.
wanted to reconnect.
Yeah, I wanted to make my life about. So the next time when I go through that, and I'll be happy with myself. When you go through death or you're near death, it isn't about anybody else in the world. It's about you.
Mm-hmm. Sure,
and
sure.
and I wanted to be happier with myself the next time I go out. So in my mind, I wanted to find something to do that I could be worthwhile, so I could feel good about myself and feel
Mm-hmm.
good about being a person here on
What
the
a
planet.
gift. Yeah, what a gift.
So anyhow, as I kept going around the country, I ended up in Fort Lauderdale. My daughter was in
Fort
Fort Lauderdale.
Lauderdale in Florida?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
And then I went down to Key Largo, and on the Bayside, a little campground called Calusa. I don't know if it's still there. They probably tore it out and put in homes. But anyhow, I went there and parked the RV up on the Bayside, right on the bay.
Mm-hmm.
And so every night I could watch the sunset. Manatees and everything would come around. I even bought a little boat so I could go to lunch and go to the store, because it's easier to get to anywhere in a little boat down there than it is to drive. And so anyhow, I really enjoyed it there. But one night I was looking out on the bay, and I just had this earthy feeling come over me, because it's kind of a spiritual place down there in the Everglades, and
Mm-hmm.
or the mangroves, not the Everglades.
Yeah.
The mangroves. Well, the
Mm-hmm.
Everglades are right up above. And so I just had this earthy feeling come over me. And that night, I went in and I wrote on a piece of paper, a yellow tablet, become an opposite charge. And A few minutes later, I wrote another line that said, status quo is the enemy. I had no idea about the status quo, but to become an opposite charge to me, we go poke people, stir them up, get them excited, and so I didn't think too much about it, but that feeling was still there, and I felt that I had to go back west. So I packed up the RV, gave the boat away, and went up, saw my daughter in Fort Lauderdale for a little bit. Went to Nashville, saw another daughter, and then headed west back to California. And I was there, and I didn't feel too comfortable there either, because it's just noise and city and craziness. So I ended up going back to Arizona, stopped in Tucson, didn't feel right. So I thought, well, I'll go up to Flagstaff, because it's
So
like
you're
Montana.
beginning to feel sicker and sicker as you're doing this. Is that what you're saying? You didn't feel right?
No, I didn't feel right, meaning I didn't feel peaceful.
Okay.
Peaceful, at ease with myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so one night I said, well, maybe I'll go up to Flagstaff, because it's kind of like Montana, pine trees, snow, and pretty country. So on the way, it was late at night, pulled into this little town called Sedona, because there was an RV park there. It was dark, so I pulled in, parked the RV, and woke up the next morning and looked out the window, and I said, I'm not leaving here. This is like living in a national park.
Mm-hmm.
And so I spent about 1.5 years there. And during that time, I started, as a hobby, I went out and helped all of the art galleries there. And then in Scottsdale, would go in and do the lightings for their special shows. Mm-hmm. They had no money, but it was something to entertain me and keep myself out of trouble. But I was handling electrical again and ground. And one day, after I had a computer that kept crashing, and I knew it was static electricity. Whenever I touched the computer and be typing away, then a glitch would come up and it would freeze. This is something that was fairly common back in those days. Yes. This is 98. And so I put a strip of metal tape across my desk, connected it to the electrical ground, so I would touch it before I touched the computer. And then got rid of the problem.
Okay.
And so anyhow, shortly after that, I went outdoors. I just sat down on a bench at one of the galleries, and a tour bus pulled up, and they were a tour from Japan. They were all Japanese group, and they were a little shorter than normal, but they had these big white Nike tennis shoes on. And I looked at them, and intuitively, I just asked the question, I wonder if there's any consequence to humans no longer being grounded. Mm. I asked that question, and this is 20 years later.
Yes.
So anyhow, that night I went home, and I didn't know for sure. So I went home, and I got a voltmeter out and some stuff that I had, and I put a ground rod in, put a wire to it, walked into the house and started measuring the body voltage, the charges on my body. And I knew that I wasn't at earth potential and then I went to my bedroom, and that's where I found that we had the highest amount of these electric field charges. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know, I just assumed that was a problem. So I went that night to the hardware store and bought a roll of 3-inch duct tape, metal duct tape. It's aluminum type. And I laid it on my bed, crossed up and down the bed. I connected a wire to it, threw it out the window. And I had the meter, another wire for the meter. So I connected the metal to the ground rod and the ground rod to the wire. And then I went in the house, took the meter, tested my body, and then I touched the ground and it would go to 0. So I said, okay, now I'm grounded. So when I lay down, it goes to 0. And so I know I'm grounded, and those charges are gone. Because when you're grounded, you're no longer an antenna. If you're not grounded, then you are an antenna for all this electrical noise.
You're a conductor. Your body is a conductor, which I was amazed, Clint, that that my body, I've heard of EMFs, I've heard of all of that. I have been grounding. I just didn't know how it all came together. So right. Go on and share how it all came together for you.
Yeah, well, I'll touch on that a little bit later, because I have a story to tell on that. But anyhow, so my assumption at that point was, well, these EMFs and stuff are affecting my sleep, because what happened that night, I was laying there on the bed and I was playing with the meter, and the next thing I knew, it was like morning and the meter was laying down beside me. And
You
at that
fell
time I was,
asleep without even knowing.
yeah, at that time I was like 54 years old, something like that. And I'm a cowboy, I and a skier, and I played tennis. I've done all these things, and I've had every kind of injury you can imagine, plus all this liver injury, back surgery, whatever, blown out knees and so on. But anyhow, so for me to go to sleep, I had to take Advil or pain medicine at that time. And as you get up in the morning, black coffee, pain meds, and they get going, and then it's fine. But anyhow, I decided, I did it for a couple more nights, same kind of thing. I slept better. And then I got a hold of a couple of friends of mine in Sedona and said, here, you guys need to try this. And first of all, I thought I was nuts, but anyhow, you don't have much to do there, so everybody plays. So I went and did the same thing for them. And a couple, 3 days later, they both agreed that sleeping was a little better. But one guy came and he said, do you think this could have anything to do with arthritis? And I said, I wouldn't think so. I don't know. And so I left it at that. And a couple of days later, I recognized that my pain was almost all gone. And I thought, wow, there's something going on here. And I started looking around in the literature. Back then, you could go online with AOL or whatever, but you didn't have much bandwidth. You couldn't search. It took forever. But there just wasn't really much information available back then. So I went down to the University of Arizona in Tucson, met with a couple of guys down there and tried to find out some stuff down there, and nothing. What's the cause of pain? Cause unknown. This is unbelievable to read that. Cause of lupus, cause of MS, cause of anything, cause unknown. And I thought, gee, that's really strange, because all these doctors, all these people, and all these institutions, they should know everything.
Yes.
But I was kind of naive, very naive back then. And so anyhow, I ended up deciding, well, I've got to go figure this out. So I packed up everything and left Sedona. I didn't really want to. I figured I'd come back in a few months. But I ended up going out to California and ended up in Ventura. And I went down to UCLA because I figured, well, there's going to be somebody there that can help me. Went to the sleep clinic area and started talking to people. And first thing they said, one of the professors said, hey, you expect us to believe that you're going to stick a nail in the ground, tie a wire around somebody's toe, and they're going to sleep better? He said, get out of here, you're nuts. And it was funny. And I can imagine how funny it sounded to him. Yeah. But on the other hand, I was looking at everything electrical, and they don't really have an electrical concept. They don't deal with electrical. Yeah. Everything is biological, and a lot of people don't know their body was back then. People didn't even know their body was electrical, by and large. So anyhow, that led to where they said, I had to have more information. So I took a couple of the students down there. I said, help me do a study. And so I pulled together a study, pulled 60 people together. 30 of them were controls, 30 of them were subjects. And all we were asking them is, do you have less pain, and does it improve your sleep? And so how am I doing on time?
No, that's okay. That's okay. Just don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Let's get to the now you're getting to the most important aspect of this, is the study that you did and the results of that.
Right. So after that study, well, there's two people in that study that make this, it changed everything for me. One was about a 75-year-old man, about my age, but he had severe arthritis, flaring arthritis, and he had heart issues, all kinds of issues. And so when I went to ground his, bring him into this, they give me the pads and they tell me to go ground people or whatever, and I don't know whether they're.
Can I ask a quick question, Clint? Okay, so by now you're not just tying a metal piece of thread on the toe. Have you created your products at this point?
No, what I did is I just went out and created a 12-inch by 24-inch ground plane, meaning I took some conductive fabric and bonded it to a felt pad and
And
connected a
people were
wire to it.
sleeping on that pad.
Yeah, they put it under the sheet and slept on it.
Okay.
And and so, but anyhow, I went to this home, 75-year-old guy, terrible arthritis. But what was interesting is I was measuring the electric fields in every home on these subjects.
Mm-hmm.
So in his home, he didn't have any lamps or anything in his bedroom. He had a concrete floor and he had an adobe home with walls and no electrical E-fields whatsoever, maybe like 20, 30 millivolts of charge, which is background noise. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is a live pad. No, we're not going to get any results for this guy, because I thought it was EMFs at that time that was creating all the issues. So on the other hand, I went across town and installed another lady, and she was probably in her early 80s, and she had flaring arthritis in about 2 hands and just really severe. And so her son was there, and we went in her bedroom. I put the pad on, grounded the bed, and had her set on it so I could measure and make sure that the effect of the electric fields and so on. And I'm kind of going a little fast here, but with her specifically, she had, in order to do the test, I put an electrode patch on her hand and connected it to the meter, and then took the other wire and connected it to the ground rod, so I could measure and see that when she was grounded, the E fields were gone, and so on. And anyhow, during that, she reached over and she says, "This one's working, but this one isn't working." And I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "Well, the pain's going down here, but this one, the pain's still the same." So I said, "Okay, well, this one's going to a meter. It's not going to the ground." So I went and I swapped them for her.
Mm-hmm.
And then a few minutes later, she says, "Now it's working." And
Wow.
I had no idea. I mean, it blew me away. So that night on the way to the, well, I'll tell that afterwards. But anyhow, I went and bought a bunch of electrode patches at the medical supply and some wires, and gave them to a bunch of my friends that had bursitis and whatever. And a few days later, they called back and called it the magic pain patch,
Okay.
because it makes pain go away. And I could go on for an hour about all of that too. But
Yeah.
anyhow, so these two people, about a month later, after the study results began to come in, I was sitting down one day and the nurse was going over them, and she showed me, let me look at them. And I looked at these two people, and both of them had the same results. One of them had no electric fields whatsoever in the bedroom. The other one had just more electric fields than I think I saw in any of the other subjects.
Mm-hmm.
And so after that, I just said, there's something wrong here, because there's just something not right. And at that time, I said, okay. I went back to the book, and I mean, just my background and everything.
Yeah.
And then I realized,
Back to the grindstone.
yes, then I realized that, okay, the Earth has a negative surface charge. That's why
Mm-hmm.
we ground everything electrical to the Earth, to prevent charge. And so I assumed that, okay, it's the Earth itself. It's the electrical surface charge of the Earth, the negative charge of the Earth, that has to be the mechanism of action.
Mm-hmm.
Because reducing electric fields doesn't reduce inflammation. Connecting them to the Earth does. So that's when, with the EMF community, I said, okay, you guys want to go in and tear everybody's house apart and rebuild it and everything. I said, all you got to do is, like we do in the communications industry, you ground what you're trying to protect, the chassis. So when you ground a human body, EMFs can't penetrate the body. There is no.
And nowadays, Clint, there are, and I really want to, we've used the term grounding several times,
Yes.
but I want people to understand what grounding is and the importance of grounding, and why is grounding important.
Right.
Because I notice, like, I'll go to the beach and I'll have a pain in my foot, and by the time I'm done walking, that foot is feeling better. So
exactly.
Grounding can be done freely. All of us have that right. So let's talk about grounding and why grounding is important.
Okay, so anyhow, after that study was done, and then I learned that the patch alone, just connecting the patch to a ground, would reduce pain, arthritic pain.
Mhm.
And that all make sense to me, and it helped make sense for myself. So anyhow, I ended up doing another study down in San Diego with a Dr. Marie Scully, where we measured cortisol every 4 hours for 24 hours, and a month later redid it. After they were grounded for a month or 6 weeks, we took it again, and what we saw is before, their cortisol profiles were like spaghetti, where once they were grounded for a month, they all synchronized and went into a nice little pattern.
Mm.
The people who had exhausted adrenals, theirs came up. People who had high anxieties, theirs came down. And so we learned that, okay, that grounding normalizes cortisol secretion. Your cortisol secretion product. That's a big deal, because if you're not sleeping at night, it's because you're in a it's elevated cortisol, fight or flight, or something is, your sympathetic nervous system is pushing that.
Mhm.
So anyhow, along the way there, we said, okay, we're trying to figure out, how does grounding, affect the body? Why is it doing this? How does it go and reduce inflammation or reduce pain? Nobody was talking about inflammation back then. Nobody even knew about it. So anyhow, that's when I ran across Stephen Sinatra. He was at a seminar down in San Diego, and Dr. Gawley said, let's go visit with Sinatra, because he's a cardiologist. He understands electrical. Let's go talk to him and see what he has to say.
Mhm.
And so in that discussion, and grounding Stephen, just playing a little bit, he says, Clint, he said, if you're affecting pain, he says, you have to be researching inflammation, because pain, you can't have pain unless you have inflammation. So if you're reducing pain, you're reducing inflammation first, because pain is a byproduct.
Mhm.
Pain is a message to the body, get me out of here. Something's bothering me, something's hurting me, harming me. So I said, okay. And then as a little time went on after he left, I started doing some research, because I thought inflammation was, you sprain an ankle and it balloons up and gets sore and whatever. And and in our discussion, he said, that's really not what we're talking about here. We're talking about, this chronic low-grade inflammation in the body.
Mhm.
And so it took me a little while to figure it out. But one day I was looking through some medical papers or some literature, and I ran across a neutrophil. And I found that basically a neutrophil, if you have a pathogen or a damaged cell, neutrophil will come over, white blood cell, neutrophil comes over, part of your immune system, and it will encapsulate the pathogen or the damaged cell. And then it releases reactive oxygen species. And these are electrically charged molecules that rip electrons from the damaged cell or the pathogen and destroys it. That's how the immune system destroys pathogen. And I thought, wow, that's interesting, because the word reactive means that it's electrical, means it's charged, positively or negatively charged.
Mhm.
So then I started putting 2 and 2 together, and I realized that the reason that pain goes away when you put a patch, an arthritic flare will stop. You put a ground patch on a person's hand and connect it to the earth, the ground rod, or the earth, or the electrical ground, via a wire. So what's happening is you're actually pouring water on a fire. The negative electrons on the earth come up the wire, and your body equalizes with the earth. It becomes flooded with free electrons. And those free electrons, I'm getting ahead of myself here, but what they do is they reduce any of these remaining radicals left over from an immune response,
Amazing. Amazing.
the inflammatory. So this is cowboy logic at this point. And so anyhow, so we went on, and we've done 24 peer-reviewed published studies. And it's because everywhere I went, everybody said, well, you got to have more studies. You got to have, nobody has common sense these days. There's no horse sense out there when it comes to any of this stuff. So anyhow, we ended up doing all these studies, but they all really said one thing, that when the body is grounded to the earth, it becomes negatively charged. It takes on the electrical surface charge of the earth. And again, to somebody in the electrical or communication industry, that means you cannot have inflammation in a grounded body.
Yes.
You
And
have
you
to
don't have interference in the body.
right, and you don't have. So anyhow, so what happens is, and so in later studies to try to understand what the mechanism of action was, Stephen, Dr. Sinatra, and Dr. Gaetan Chevalier down here in San Diego. They designed a study where we measured the electrical surface charge on red blood cells before and after grounding. And what we had like a 300% increase in the electrons on the surface of the red blood cells. So that means that makes them more negative. It's like, if you know what rouleau formation is, where blood cells stick together.
Yes.
People have thick and sticky blood. That's because one blood cell has not the same amount of electrons as the other one. So they'll stick together and balance each other out. So that's the cause of sticky blood. So when you ground to the earth, within minutes, the red blood cells all equalize with the earth. They have a similar negative surface charge that the earth does itself. So now the blood cells cannot stick together because they're more negative. They repel each other. They won't stick together. So now they can get in and out of the capillaries. They can go single file in and out of the.
So it makes your blood smoothly run through your body.
Yes, and now the blood can get in, and it can even give up a few free electrons, because it's got 300% more than it had before. And so anyhow, so all of that is part of this. And the thing that makes this, just again, cowboy logic, Madison, Wisconsin, they have an environmental, where they keep track of all the animals that live in the wild. And, animals that live in the wild don't have cancer. They don't have cardiovascular disease. They don't have lupus, MS, all of these autoimmune diseases. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, animals who live indoors with their owners manifest the same health disorders as their owners. Yes. And they have a 50% death rate from cancer, and which doesn't exist in the wild. So anyhow, it's just, so that's kind of how all of this came together.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so Clint, I want to remind everybody who's watching and who will watch after the broadcast that you reach out to me at instant message me at Lillian's Radio Show on Facebook. So it's facebook.com/Lillian's Radio Show. And I'll give you access to the Earthing movie that comes out. When does it come out, Clint?
November 19th.
November 19th. And you can have your own private viewing. If you instant message me, you can also text me at 407-373-5959. So this is such interesting information. And I want to quickly share a little story, if you don't mind, Clint. When I met Jim Balacera at the Iridology conference, I always go to these conferences to look for something, not just for me, that I could, either use for myself, bring to my doctors, or bring to the classroom. Right. Well, I was so amazed by it that I took my husband the next day, and he became so amazed by it that we are obsessed with grounding. Now, so that people understand, grounding is something that you can do for free. You can walk barefoot on the earth. And today, by the way, I was trying to test the earth near the City Hall in Cape Canaveral, and the earth on the ground was not charged in a way that would make me be at zero. And I asked, and there were electrical currents underneath the ground. So even that alerted me that we have to be very careful when we're grounding. We want to make sure that we're in the right place. So the way this works is that it's a pad. I'm going to show you real quick. These are some of the products that you will see. You can go to whenyouneedafriend.com and click on the shopping bag, shop now, or the shop with Lily. And this is what I purchased. And I laid on this thing, and it was the first time. And I have to tell you, Clint, I didn't share this with you. I don't sleep very well at night. I've got lots of things to do. Who has time to sleep, right?
Right, exactly.
So I have since I was a little girl, I have not slept a good 8 hours. And so, and I've gotten used to it. I can function on 6 hours, or less. But I'm exhausted throughout the day. So Jim came to the home, and he brought me I bought this pad, the king size, and I laid on it. I made sure that it was grounded, that the outlet was grounded. And I don't have my outlet here, so I have to do a show and tell some other time. So, and when I laid on that pad, I could barely bend my knee. I had hurt my knee. I don't know what happened to me. I
Mhm.
laid on the mat and I slept 8 hours for the first time in forever.
Right.
And not only that, the next day I could bend my knee.
Right.
And it had gotten so, and it was like an overnight type of thing, you know? And when my husband and when Robert saw that, he was like, okay, I want my mat. And so he got his mat. And not only that, I have to show you that from this point on, Clint, I've got my mat like right here. This is my mat. It's at my feet now. So
Right.
you hear about all these EMF protections and jewelry and rings and clothing. And now I know I can ground anytime I want. And not only that, I don't just ground when I get to the beach for half an hour to an hour. I am constantly grounding. So what does
Right.
that do for someone's body when they're experiencing more than an hour or so of grounding without even thinking you're compliant?
Right.
So what is grounding for more than an hour will do, like the animals like you talked about the
Yeah.
animals that are laying on
Yeah.
the ground?
Yeah. Well, the issue of the day right now is inflammation.
Mm-hmm.
80% of all visits to a practitioner are inflammation-related health disorders. And the whole thing is grounding itself will prevents inflammation. If you could be grounded 24/7, like you were in nature throughout all time, like
Yes.
we were, all of our progenitors, then uh, we would have, it's like I think they said that 80% of the visits to a practitioner before 1960 were for infectious disease, childbirth, and acute injury.
Mm-hmm.
And today it's 80%. It's just reversed. But the thing that happened in 1960, they invented the plastic soled shoes,
Yes.
or the synthetic soled shoes. And so if you look at all of the early, the ones that they track, like diabetes and all of these inflammation-related
Mm-hmm.
health disorders,
Mm-hmm.
they all started back then, and then it's been an exponential curve ever since. And it's
It's a fascinating
climbing.
stuff.
So there's nothing else that correlates 100% with inflammation. So,
Amazing. So with that in mind, we've got lots of questions. I promise you I will ask every single question.
okay.
But let me ask some questions so that maybe these are some questions that I have prepared for Clint, so that maybe these will answer some of your questions. So let's talk about who can ground, who cannot ground.
Okay, if you can walk outdoors and stand barefoot on the earth, you can ground. And that's what I encourage everybody to do. I do seminars all the time, but the first thing to do is recognize how you feel, your pain. A lot of people, think they're okay because they've adapted to how they feel. But to go outdoors and just sit on get a chair. If you have to, just sit down, put your feet on the earth, and leave your feet on the earth for 30 minutes.
Yes.
And you're going to your circulation's going to improve, your demeanor's going to improve, your color, your skin color is going to improve. The pain, you can feel the pain start to drain out of the body. What you'll notice is anything that's hot, burning, or chronic pain, it comes down significantly. There's another kind of pain that you have is more dull. It says, don't move, leave me alone, let me heal.
Mm-hmm.
But this hot, burning, what I call Vicodin pain, you don't have that when you're grounded. You cannot have it when you're grounded. You cannot have
You
that
cannot
kind of
have pain, or you can't have Vicodin.
no, you can't have that hot burning pain, because when your body is flooded with free, it's like the animals in the wild. When they get injured or whatever, they don't go have to call an ambulance, lay there screaming
No,
and
they
whatever.
don't. They don't.
And they heal up quickly all by themselves. I could tell lots of stories on that. So anyhow, but the main thing is you need to become familiar with grounding, and the best way to do it is just go outdoors. Put your hands and your feet on the earth, or put your feet on the earth and just sit there long enough, and you'll know that something is happening.
Yes.
And then if it serves you even a little bit, then you do more and more. But the whole concept is grounding is free.
Yes.
And it's life-changing. There is nothing on the planet that will have a more dramatic impact on your health than grounding, and it's free. And I remember talking to some of the people at the NIH and other people that, they said, we understand everything you're doing, but they say before you go out and start educating people, telling people, you have to have a low cost and a no cost
Correct.
mechanism. So the no
Yes.
cost is just go to the beach, go outdoors, sit in your backyard. The low cost are simply these products that we ended up with. These products are all byproducts of doing our studies.
Yes, and so I just wanted to share. Well, this is one of the little cables. These are the patches that you were talking about,
Yes.
and this is I went to go see Dr. Joel Furman in
Uh-huh.
New Jersey, and this is
Uh-huh.
what I brought. I brought my little grounding, and so there are different products, and so let me share with you how committed this man is, and I'm just such an honor. I was sharing with many people that knew I was going to be interviewing you today, that I felt like I was interviewing royalty or a rock star, because
No,
what you have
just a
created,
cowboy.
you're just a cowboy, I understand that, but for someone who can be so um, have such integrity, I think is the word that I think integrity is the right word, to want to bring this solution indoors, because I am grounding right now,
Yep.
because my feet are barefoot and my
Yep.
feet are on this pad, and there are light bulbs, there are computers, there are cell phones, and Lord knows what else is affecting the walls, but
Yes.
I am at zero right now. I am
Right.
grounding. And so that being at zero will reduce my inflammation, correct?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
right now I'm pain
Basically,
free.
yeah, when you're at zero, that means you're equal with the earth. The earth is negative, then your body becomes negative. When your body's negatively charged, you can't have inflammation.
Okay. So do you want to be at like a negative zero, -1, -3? What happens if
No,
you go?
no. Well,
No. So
your
it'll go to
body,
zero.
yeah, the body, the blood. I mean, it goes negative about 20 millivolts. The earth is, but it's too technical to get into. But it
No.
happens in nature. This is nature. It happens naturally. You don't have to know about it or think about it.
And the
Just
earth doesn't say, okay, you need this kind of
no.
dose, you need this kind of frequency, you need the earth knows exactly what you need. I
Yes,
guess that's why we call it Mother Earth. And who
that's
would have known?
correct.
Did your mom ever yell, "You're grounded"? I know I
Yes,
yelled "you're grounded" to my kids all the time. And
yes,
so it's like, "You're grounded, you're grounded." Well, that was like the exact recipe that we've needed. And we have
right.
disconnected to the earth. And for those of you who would like to get your own mat, you can go to whenyouneedafriend.com, or you can go to lillianmcdermott.com, which is what it will turn into. Click the shop now button, or you'll see the little shopping bag, and you'll see how affordable these products are. So for one, okay, the pad this is the pad that I showed you a little while ago, that's at my feet. That's $69. That's incredibly affordable. And then my mat was $129, and on the Lillian McDermott radio show, you can get two for $219. So that's a $40 savings. And we have all these different things that will help you with your lifestyle. So if you want a big old chair and that's what you can afford, do that. If you just want to have the mat and lay in your bed and be compliant for 8 hours as you're sleeping, that's great. But I just want to encourage you to go to whenyouneedafriend.com and check that out. And while you're there, by the way, because we've got 2 minutes before the broadcast, Robert, can you give me more time, please? Can you just give me 5 more minutes, please? So I just want to share that when you go to whenyouneedafriend.com, please subscribe. Please check out my sponsors. Without my sponsors, there would be no classroom. And I know we've gone a little bit, I wanted this to be Grounding 101 so that everybody would know. And we are giving, Clint is so generous that he is allowing everybody. This movie has not been released yet. It's called The Earthing Movie. My husband and I saw it several times already. You learn so much about grounding, why you should ground, and what it does to your body and to heal. So make sure that when you go to whenyouneedafriend.com, you check out my sponsors like Liberty Health Share, Keep Me Safe Organics, First Alternative Care, Dr. Stephen Grable, The Pharmacy in Merritt Island, Live Longer Medical in Indy Atlantic, and of course you can become the enrolled student. And this is different ways. I'm an affiliate for, just full disclosure, I love this product so much. I'm going to bring this to my doctors. I'm going to bring this. I want everybody in the universe while they are home. Okay, I didn't tell you this either, Clint. While you are home, that you are grounded. We ground our appliances. We ground our computers, our televisions. Everything is grounded, but we wear rubber shoes. Something is wrong with this picture. And so I want to encourage you to start doing things to take your health back. Not only eat well, but you also need to make sure that all the electro smog that's out there isn't hurting the good you're doing for your body. So I promise you, I will answer your question. Just hang on till after the broadcast. Now, is there anybody, because I learned, I think it was Jim that said that if you're on blood thinners, because you had talked about how the blood becomes very fluid. People with blood thinners, do they need to titrate with their doctor and talk to their doctor about working with them with this?
Yes, especially Coumadin. That's the only one that we've ever found that really has a problem, because that's a major blood thinner. And when you ground, then the body automatically returns to normal.
Yes.
The blood viscosity. So now it's becoming thinner. So if they get bruised or fall or somebody, so it's best to work with the doctor, and they do they tell them to make a decision. You're either going to spend X number of time grounding, it's going to have this effect, or you're not going to ground at all, or you're going to ground 100%, and so on. But anyhow, the doctors are in charge of that, and every 2 weeks, anybody on Coumadin usually monitors their INR.
For example, I tested my parents. I wanted to see, because they're very sedentary, and the amount of voltage in their body was, because I'm giving them the mats, the king size mats for Christmas. I am not waiting till Christmas. I just ordered them and they came in today. I'm just saying that for those of you who have felt any pain in your body, it's probably because you haven't been grounding. We're offering you a free solution, but how often can you ground, take off your shoes, walk around with pesticide on the ground, with ant bites or whatever? If you can't walk around, which is our number one way, if you can't do it for 12 hours or 8 hours, why not ground while you're at home sitting there? And the bathroom is the worst. I'm going to do a little video on that. The bathroom, holding on to my flat iron, holding on to my blow dryer. It's amazing that I'm still alive, Clint. We
determined several years back the best thing we could do for people is to ground them during sleep. Put it under their sheet. All they have to do, no compliance, just lay down and go to sleep, do what they normally do.
Yes. And you can go to LillianMcDermott.com or whenyouneedafriend.com, click on the shopping and get your own. And then also when you buy it, they'll automatically get a grounding movie, right?
Yeah, there's one goes out with every order.
Yes, the Earthing movie. It's an amazing movie. It's very educational. Clint, we only have about a minute or two before we finalize we finish the podcast, but we're going to continue, and I'm going to ask all the questions that have been asked so far. Is there anything you'd like to say before we go and we shut down the podcast? And by the way, all of you who are listening on the podcast, you can join us on Facebook Live at Lillian's radio show on Facebook Live. So is there any advice that you can give people that are listening today that are in pain?
The main thing I can suggest is, if at all possible, go outdoors and ground yourself for 30 minutes. And then do it routinely for a few times. And then if that works for you, which it will, we know that it will, you're going to have a significant benefit, and it's free at that point. But if your health is more compromised, then you need to consider finding ways to ground yourself during sleep at least.
And you invented this. And I just want to say my hat's to you. My hat's, you're the founder of the indoor grounding pads. And you've been doing this for 18 years, 20 years, right?
20 years and 1 month.
And how did it take me this long to find you? is beyond me. I'm forever grateful to Jim Belisera for introducing me to the concept of grounding, and
Yeah.
to you, Clint. Thank you so much for taking the time to share.
You're most welcome, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity to share.
Yes, and for those of you who, are interested at all, or your curiosity is piqued, you can at least watch the movie and then make your decision.
Yeah,
But the way you get the product is you go to my website at whenyouneedafriend.com, click on the shop now, and you'll be able to start grounding yourself. So go get grounded. So Clint Ober, thank you so much for everything that you're doing. We're going to continue out of the podcast to ask all these questions that are, so start asking your questions if you want your questions asked. And so please remember, it's a good thing to be grounded. So please remember, I'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott and Clint Ober wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. Yay!
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before taking any steps to improve your life.
Okay, so I was in disbelief. I was in disbelief when I learned about, I knew I'd been grounding for a long time. I just didn't know what it was doing to my body. I knew it was good, but now I am obsessed with grounding. I take my pad to the kitchen. I take my pad to the bathroom. I think I'm going to get a pad for every room in the house. How about that? Do you have people that do that too, Clint?
Yes. It's kind of it's an odd thing because it's absurd what we have to do to ground ourselves today, because 50 years ago, couldn't get off the earth. Now we can't get back to the earth.
Yeah.
Because of the plastic. And
yes. So I have a question from Aaron. So Aaron, I guess, thank you all for watching the live broadcast. I'm very grateful to you. You can watch this later on YouTube and also Facebook Live because we are going to post this as soon as the class is done. So Aaron says that she has high cortisol at night. Will this help her?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know how much time you have and how much you want me to go into this or explain, but yes, the answer is yes.
Okay, maybe let's get through all the questions and then we can go back to Aaron. I'm going to write this down. We'll talk about cortisol if we have some time.
Yes.
Okay, with Aaron.
She probably has pain, all these things, and there's other issues that go with elevated.
And sleep disorders probably, right?
Yeah, but they're all byproduct of living in a chronically elevated sympathetic state.
Yes.
And that's driven by cortisol, and cortisol creates the inflammation and goes round and round and round, which creates more elevated cortisol. So by grounding, you put the fire out, the body calms down, the sympathetic calms down, parasympathetic comes back up, and you could sleep. Mm-hmm. Sleep is autonomic.
I tell you what, I am just thrilled about this. Okay, so I want to bring this back out because the next question is from Glenda. She has carpal tunnel, and this is the pad that I took when I went to go see Dr. Joel Furman in New Jersey, and I didn't want to take my pad with me because I refused to check in luggage and pay $50 for my luggage. So I had this tiny little bag, and so I thought, I'm going to bring this. So this attaches to this, and this attaches to the wall. And you're just connected to the ground when you do that. And so if you put it in your hand, would that help her carpal tunnel?
Yeah, that will reduce the inflammatory burst that's going on to the pain, the chronic pain. But in order to recover from it, depends on her occupation. If it's sitting at a desk all day with a computer, then taking one of those mats and putting it underneath the keyboard and using it for a mouse pad and a keyboard, then your wrists are always on the grounded mat. You can't have carpal tunnel. But if she's doing it, if she's a hairdresser or something, depending on what it is, everybody's got different lifestyles. But the patch is a good way to put the fire out. sleep with the patch if you have to, in order to get grounded and keep that part of the body grounded as much as you possibly can until it recovers.
Okay. So can you sleep on the mat and also add the patch on your hand? So let's say, I just want the pad because I just want my whole body to be grounded.
Yes.
And then maybe my hand is hurting or my knee is hurting.
Yes.
Can I just put the patch on any body part? Can
Yeah,
I ground too much?
no, you can't ground too much, but what I recommend is putting it in, depending on where the pain is. If it's in upper body on the right, put it on the right hand. On the left, put it on the left hand. And otherwise, put it on the bottom of the feet, on the side where the issue is. That's what I recommend, but most people just put it where the pain is, which works okay. But the body is systemic. I mean, it has a system. And when you're in nature, you would have your bare feet and your hands on the earth. Those are your ground. Those are your natural grounds. And there's pathways.
Yes.
There's your feet and hands are more conductive than the rest of your body.
Very good. Very good to know. Okay, so Victoria has a question. She says, how do I know I need grounding or if I have high cortisol?
Do you have pain in your body?
Grounding. Yeah.
Do you have pain? Do you have anxiety, irritability, chronic fatigue? You have to answer one of those questions because they would be related.
One of the things that I noticed, Clint, when I started sleeping, because I had surgery about less than 10 weeks ago, major surgery.
Right.
And I think the scars in my body were causing pain in my knees because of the disruption of the flow of my body. Mm-hmm. And so that's because I know the meridians, and I mean, I don't know meridians, but I know that we have meridians throughout our body.
Yes.
And it causes that flow to get disrupted. Yeah. I thought that was the reason why my knees have been hurting so much. And besides the point that I used to be a dancer, that's why I dance before the class. And so what people don't know is that I don't have much cartilage on my knee, but I've never had knee surgery because the goal is to keep the muscle strong. And after you reach, I'm 56, after you reach a certain age, unless you're working out all the time, that muscle doesn't, they say muscle has memory, but my muscle has dementia or something, so it takes a little bit longer. Yeah. So I think that because of the surgery, I've experienced a little bit more ache on my body. And so when I slept that night, and then after 4 days of sleeping on the pad, like my body was painless. And I'm like, I got to tell everybody about this. Everybody's got to get a pad. Everybody gets a pad. Okay.
Eventually your cartilage will grow back too.
No way. Really?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, they're learning that more and more all the time now. See, the whole key to it is if you reduce the inflammation, the fire that's in the body, then the immune system can go back, instead of fighting that fire or fighting its own fire, it can go back to maintaining the body and restoring the body to health.
Yes.
The body only knows to do one thing, that's to return to normal.
I know God created the body so beautifully, and we just mess it up with all these modern technologies. We have detached from the earth, like the umbilical cord that keeps us fed and nourished. And nature. Yes, exactly. Okay, so Victoria, what I would say to you is, everybody needs grounding. Because if you're wearing shoes all day long and you're sleeping in a bed that is elevated from the floor, then you need grounding. If you have carpet on your floor, then you need grounding. So you're not grounding all the time. So that's my opinion. Yeah. Anyway.
Give us more information.
Yes. Go ahead and share more, Victoria. Okay, I'm going down the list. So Kathy, hey Jenny, how are you? Thank you so much for joining us. Kathy, do you suggest a grounding mat? Of course I suggest a grounding mat. I love my grounding mat. My husband has one. They just arrived. I went to my parents because they're elderly and they are dealing with inflammation, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. And so my dad is on blood thinners, and I told him that before I put the mat on his bed, that I want to talk to his doctor. And then my mom has dementia. And I am looking forward to seeing what inflammation in her brain, have you done any trials with dementia, Clint?
No, we have stayed away from the clinical because that's more the doctor's purview.
Okay.
And the thing that we've looked at is, we proof of concept. You ground the body, and it does this. Now,
Mm-hmm.
if inflammation is the cause of all these health disorders, including dementia, then lack of grounding is promoting that.
Okay. Okay.
You definitely want to ground that person.
Okay, we have lots of questions, Clint. So
Yes. Okay.
let me go back and I just want to let you know because I'm not letting you go anytime soon.
No
So
problem.
let's see. I lost my place. Okay, so Kathy, it's freezing here on the north east. I can't ground here for months. Okay, and Kathy, thank you for that point. If you can't ground because there's snow, this is a great solution for you. What do you suggest for people who don't want to buy the mat and want to ground during the winter months when there is ice on the ground or too cold?
Right. Well, once you get grounded, I mean, sometimes you just can't do it. If you've got a basement, go down in the basement where there's concrete, clean concrete that's not painted. That's one way. Snow doesn't stay there forever. Clean it away. Create a little area in your backyard where you can ground, or create your own little sandbox. There's many different things you can do, but it's all I know is a lot of people say one of the main problems that most people have is cold fingers and cold toes.
Mm-hmm.
That's a stress sympathetic state.
Okay.
So as soon as you get grounded, your toes and your fingers are going to warm up, because now the blood normalizes and it can get in and out of the capillaries, and it can oxygenate the tissue and circulate and control your body temperature. But that's one of the things that the blood does, is control body temperature.
Mm-hmm.
And so surely you can go out and spend a little bit outdoors and ground, but I wouldn't recommend that anybody go out and if it's below certain temperatures, or just use common sense, horse sense.
Well, we have this is so affordable. Like I said, the mat is $69. If you have a king size bed, you can get two for $219, I believe. It's $129 for one. I don't know if these were for the California King. I think they're a little bit more than $129. But you can go onto my website and check it out. Also, Clint, I have a question for Kathy. She wants to know, would this be dangerous for vasculitis? I have no idea. I would say that's a vascular thing. So
okay, if she would watch the movie, Richard Koch, who is one of the main characters in it, talks about his mom, who was 92, 94 at the time we did the movie, and she had peripheral artery disease and so on. And listen to that story. Yes, because that's inflammation. The answer is yes. It will help everything. It will help because these are all immune dysfunctions. These, because it's all, the immune system is compromised, and you don't have enough ground to reduce the radicals. So the immune system is you just have to get grounded to reduce the radicals in the body, naturally, the way nature intended.
And we here in the classroom, we promote a nutritarian lifestyle, which is a whole food, plant-based lifestyle.
Yep.
And even though we're eating well, I always say it's not a one size fits all. We all have different healing modalities that will help us, whether it's food or meditation or hydration or clearing up your mind so that your thoughts aren't negative, so they're positive thoughts, and you live a life that is giving. Like Clint said, he wanted to do more, and it resonates with me, Clint, that I want my next 50 years to be better than my first.
Right.
And so I can resonate with you saying, I got to do more. I got to do more. And this to me is like such a gift for 56 years, I not even know about this. So, okay. So let me keep asking. Okay. Glenda. So are there shoes that we should be wearing? Well, the shoes that we normally wear have rubber soles, and that disconnects us from the ground. So Clint, are there different shoes that we can wear that we can still be grounded even when we have shoes?
Well, I mean, there are a couple of people out there making semi-grounded shoes. They're not really the best on the market yet. But I've been trying to get Nike to do it. And, it's like a lot of the shoe companies, they say, as soon as people come to my store and tell me they want a grounded shoe, we're going to make them. But we're not going to go out and tell people they need a grounded shoe, because the shoes that we've been selling are making them sick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, but there are, Reebok has what they call an ESD, electrostatic discharge, or anti-static shoes that they wear in the clean industry and some surgical centers and so on. But these are, kind of an athletic shoe look. Some of them have steel toes and some of them have soft toes, but they are conductive and they will ground you. So if you get a Reebok conductive anti-static shoe with a soft toe, they have three varieties. That's about the only thing there is today.
Yeah, wow, that's a great tip. Thank you so much, Clint.
You bet.
Also, I also wanted to address that grounding is something that they do in the hospitals with little premature babies. I learned about that in the Earthing movie, which, by the way, you can get your own free viewing before November. And if you buy your own mat, you can get the DVD for free. But I just want to encourage you to reach out to me at my website and you can send me an email at lily@whenyouneedafriend.com, or you can instant message me here that you want your own private viewing, or you can text me at 407-373-5959. The questions keep coming, Clint. So this is amazing information. I've been giving you little bits of information because I'm like this hose that's full of water and is about to explode. I wanted to share this information. And I think Jim and I talk, and when I talk to Jim Balacera, he is so excited. And I say, Jim, I'm just as excited as you. It's like we're like, by the time we're done with the conversation, it's like this crescendo, it's like it's way up there as far as emotion. Yeah. Okay. So can you ground through concrete? That's a great question, Aaron.
Concrete, if it's on the earth, it's holding moisture, it's ground. It may have a little bit of resistance in it compared to standing on the soil, but you are grounded when you stand barefoot on concrete.
Okay. But again, I had mentioned that I was at the City Hall because we want to just educate people, that are going to, the events out there. And so we're going to be out there on December 6th in Cape Canaveral. So come on by and say hello. And when I stood barefoot on the grass, holding onto the grounding meter, or the just to test myself to see where I was, I wasn't at zero, Clint. So I'm wondering if the ground now has the electrical powers.
The electrical has nothing to do with reducing the inflammation. It's the free electrons on the surface of the earth that we're missing. Okay, so what the electric fields do is they can stimulate the sympathetic nervous system and things like that, but they're an environmental stressor, but they're not the cause of the inflammation. But if you get stressed and stay ungrounded, yes. I've got lots of stories, but I know you don't have time.
No, well, you're definitely hooked. You're going to come back, and we'll. Okay. And what was the story about we know you have 20 some years of stories, I'm sure. Yes. So I love that these questions are coming in, and they're great questions because I have the smartest audience in the world.
Awesome.
Go ahead.
That's what we need.
we need to educate ourselves. We need to be our own MD, our own medical detective.
Exactly.
Okay, so Erin she just is making a statement. She has Lyme, Bartonella, mold, candida, etc. So can that help reduce inflammation that will help her with pain?
Yes. Absolutely. That's what this is all about. I can't get into, I'm not a doctor in the sense that I'm going to talk about any one of those disorders, but of all the people we grounded, these are the stories we hear. Mm-hmm. candida, all of these things it's all inflammation or stress related. And, the stress is I don't know how to say it simply, but if you ground the body and put the fire out, you can't have the inflammation, but ground the body and stay grounded. It will put the fire out. Then the immune system can stop cleaning up its own mess and go back to cleaning up this other mess.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the immune system is supposed to be doing. But right now,
Yes.
our immune systems are all compromised because of the inflammation, because it doesn't have ground. When the body is grounded, then the immune system can just happily go and do what it does. It can have oxidative bursts all day long and clean up things. But the inflammation is an abnormal thing in the body. It doesn't exist in nature. Inflammation means body on fire, inflame. So put the fire out, rest, eat some good food, drink some good water, exercise as best you can. Don't overdo it with exercise. Just move, and your body will return to normal.
Yes, and of course, nutrition it's not a one and done.
No,
You don't breathe and go, oh, I'm done breathing.
No.
I don't need to breathe anymore, right?
No.
There's other things that we can do. Healthy,
it's called balance.
That's right. That's right. This is just one of the missing links
Yeah.
that I felt I was missing in my life. I mean, as often as I can go grounding, I do, but it's not as much as I'm indoors with rubber shoes walking around. Okay, so Gina wants to know where you can get this pad. I love to walk barefoot in nature, but I have 10 inches of snow right now. Perfect reason to get this mat. I have the king size. I have 2 of these king size, one for me, one for my husband, and we have 2 of the mats, and they're so affordable. And Clint, thank you so much for keeping this affordable. So look at how big this mat is. Oh my God, this is a big mat for $69, and I'm grounded to the grounding line in the. I don't know if you can still hear me. The grinding line in my outlet, and I had to test it first, and it comes with a tester. And I don't know if I've got a tester in here. But anyway, it's just a tester to see if it's grounded or not. And so you can get it at whenyouneedafriend.com. Of course, I hope that you're subscribed. And then you click onto my little shopping bag, and then scroll down to the ground therapy button, and that's where you can shop and look at everything that's going on. And then you can buy it directly there. You just buy it directly there, put in your information, and that will go to the company, Clint's ground therapy company, and then they will send it out to you. I got mine within 7 days. So I don't know if, depending on where you're living, I live in Florida, it took about 7 days. So Gina, you know where to go now. And I think, Robert, you responded to that. Yep, you did. You posted the link. Smart guy. Okay, so clenching my teeth. So let me see. I think you're talking about, Victoria had shared with me that she had a root canal. Now, people with root canals, I've done classes on that with wonderful teachers. And that's inflammation in the mouth. Do you find that people that have root canals end up removing the tooth if they have a problem, or if they need a root canal, what do you?
I don't know what to tell you. I will tell you this. When I started grounding, I was 54. I've been grounded for however long that is, and before, when I would go to the dentist, just a nightmare, because they'd always have to do all kinds of things. But now I go in every 3 months and get my teeth cleaned, and it's a breeze. I don't have any plaque. I don't have any of I have some of the tartar and all that, but it's nothing compared to. But most of all, I'm 75 and I have no inflammation in the gums or anything like that. Or in 50, when I was in my 50, before I got grounded, I certainly had dental issues.
Yes. Oh, okay. So you were talking about inflammation in your body. You don't have to worry about inflammation on your body when your body, the benefit, and I just want to reiterate I want to paraphrase what I think I heard. When you have no inflammation in the body, the body can heal other things.
Yeah, that's what it does.
So
Your
it
body will,
removes.
the immune system will return the body to normal. That's all it knows. That's what it does. I'm living proof. I'm 75. I should be dead.
No, you shouldn't be dead.
For
You're
what
still
I've been,
young. You're a little
no,
puppy.
no, but for what I've been through in my life.
Sure, sure. I understand. But okay, so
I didn't know anybody could live to be 50 when I was 30.
exactly. Yeah. I was sharing with somebody that when, because I had breast explantation surgery. So I had my breast implants removed.
Yeah.
And my mom, so sweet. My mom has dementia, and I love going and talking to my mom. And my mom said, Lily, why did you have breast implants? And of course she goes, I didn't know you had breast implants. And I said to her, and then I said, yes, Mom. Well, I said, well, maybe I didn't tell you because I don't. And
Right.
so then she said to me, but why did you do that? And I said, when I was in my 30s, I thought I knew everything. And now that I'm
Right.
in my 50s, my kids remind me that I don't know anything. So
That's true.
I guess we never, and that's true. We're always students. We're always growing. We're always learning. Gina, and if you are having knee pain, Gina said that she also had major surgery 6 weeks ago. And so Gina, if you're feeling pain in your knees, it may be as a result of the impedance in your body, because when you have scars, that causes the flow of your body to
but pain is, you can't have pain unless you have inflammation.
That's right.
So it's inflammation. Get a patch, put a patch on the knee, and the pain will go away.
Yes. And Barbara, I hope that you're if you've I'm just looking now. Thank you so much for joining us. Barbara is from Australia, and so can somebody from Australia buy this mat?
Yeah, we ship stuff all the time.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
We ship it
Okay,
around
Barbara.
ship it around the world.
Yeah, so we're talking about grounding therapy, or ground therapy is the name of the, I am so excited to be able to share this with all of you. And let me show you really up close. This is what the grounding, like my bed pad looks like, the bed mat. It has, like, you can barely feel that it's underneath you. And it is amazing, amazing, amazing. And I'm like this, when my husband reads and he turns the page in his book, when he used to not use a Kindle or use his phone, I would wake up and go, what? I am such a sensitive, light sleeper. And
Right.
when we tested some of the things around my house, my alarm clock I was at 25,000 millivolts in my body.
Yeah.
My lamp put me at like 10,000 that put me at 25,000. So there's a lot of things that it's like, no wonder I couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
It's no wonder I couldn't sleep. Okay. So you still have time, Clint?
I have all the time I have all
We
day.
have so many questions. We may have to put a stop to this, even though I promised that we'd, so let me keep going. Clenching my teeth, which causes jaw pain. So you have TMJ. That's what you meant. So TMJ, how does that help TMJ?
That's one of the things we found in the first study. The women reported they had a reduction in TMJ. That's stress, that's cortisol, that's sympathetic state. Holding your body tense.
Okay, cold hands and feet. So Victoria says she has cold hands and feet. Is that a sign that, because you asked her for more symptoms, is that a sign for cortisol, or maybe she lives in Montana?
No, most women have cold hands and cold feet, and it's poor circulation.
But we have a warm heart.
That's true. I'll give him that. No, it's because your blood is thick and sticky. It can't get into the capillaries, and you're in a stressed state. You're, anxiety, irritability, and pain, and you're holding your body in a sympathetic state, a chronically elevated sympathetic state. So when you get grounded, that discharges. Your blood normalizes. You can get in and out of the capillaries, and your fingers and your toes warm up.
Amazing. Okay, so
and you can do that just by going out in the backyard.
Yeah.
You'll just do it a half hour in the backyard. You'll experience it.
That's good. That's good. Now, one of the things that I was talking about when I mentioned that I had the surgery and I was beginning to have knee pain, and I was experiencing knee pains, and I was experiencing pain throughout my body. And I had a car accident a couple of years ago. and I have been diagnosed with 4 herniated discs, spinal
Right.
compression, concussion. And so I've had pain in my body,
Yes,
but
you know it.
I alleviate it with the pulse electromagnetic frequency and the microcurrent, but that's $4,000. This is $129, which
Well,
is so affordable.
what this will do is it gets at the source. It reduces the inflammation so the immune system can heal the body. These other things are more palliative in the sense that they will reduce the effect, but they're not going to
I'm
reduce the
telling you.
cause.
I am completely 100% sold on this. Well, you weren't selling. I've been 100% educated on this. Okay,
Yeah,
so
I don't sell.
no, neither
I
do I. I am
I
just
just teach.
that's it. That's it. And then people
Yeah,
can choose what they want. So
yeah,
one of the byproducts that I saw, Glenda, because Glenda said, will this help with weight loss? This will help with weight loss because for me, I had inflammation in my body. And once I started clearing, I noticed that not that I want to release any more weight because I feel that I don't need to,
right,
but my body knows what it needs. I
right.
released some weight and I'm like, oh,
Yeah. You watch the movie. There's a lady in there that had a pretty dramatic story with weight,
yeah.
but basically it's
The
about,
producer, the producer, right? The
yeah,
director. Yeah.
yeah. But if you have, it's like if you have pain in your body, if you have stress, I mean, you have um, low-grade inflammation, it creates anxiety, irritability, and you don't feel good. So you compensate for food, but as soon as you put the fire out, then your sympathetic relaxes, your
Mhm.
parasympathetic comes up, and then you have more energy. You can move. You don't have. You, I don't want to get too deep in that, but it's freeing to get grounded and stop the fire.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So Barbara Scott, she's and I totally get this. And so when I read this question, I think everybody's going to get this, and I'm going to ask Clint to address it. She said, I would like some sort of medical proof that this works. She says, I have to say I'm not sold on this, and I'm not selling it. I'm just sharing
Right.
information and my experience. And so, but I've been able to measure, I've been able to see it. But we're not showing it here. Clint, if anybody wants to prove this to themselves that this works, what's your best advice for them? Because there are
That's
there's clinical
well.
trials too.
Yeah, you can go to PubMed
Mm-hmm.
and type in earthing, grounding. Um, that's one way. Inflammation. You can go to earthinginstitute.net. There's 24, 25 peer-reviewed published studies under science or
And I can send them
research.
to you. I can send them to you, Barbara. Send me
Yeah,
your email. Mm-hmm.
or you can watch the movie. Richard Koch, who was a 30-year veteran of the FDA, you can hear his comments about this being the most. I forget how he says that. The most nothing. I mean, it's the best thing that ever came across his desk in 30
Yeah,
years.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So
groundbreaking.
yeah, it is groundbreaking. But anyhow, well, yeah, it's absurd. It's absurd for anybody to believe this because here we are at our age and stage in life, and we have the best of everything. We
That's
have the
right.
best shoes, the best homes, the best cars. We can't touch the earth. We haven't touched the earth in 60 years, most people.
Mm-hmm.
But therein is the double-edged sword. What did we give up, for all of these creature comforts?
Yeah.
We lost our ground. We lost our electrical ground. Body's electrical first, chemical second. It's about electrical stability. When you ground the body, then you stabilize the electrical melee of the body. It's the rhythms. Everything is electrical. Everything is electrical. That's all I can tell you. I could
Yes.
get into it for hours, but
We there's I used to hear Dr. Wayne Dyer say we are we are spiritual beings having a human experience,
yeah,
but we really are electrical beings that have
yes.
been cut off from our source,
Yeah, our ground,
our
our electrical
ground.
our electrical stability.
You
So
can,
it's,
if you instant message me, Barbara, I will give
yeah,
you a private viewing of this. Anyone who wants a copy of this, you'll get a private viewing. The movie is called The Earthing Movie, and the examples and the way that it is explained, whether you accept it or not, that's okay. But at
Yeah,
least you
it's
educate
okay.
yourself, and you can make a choice of
Yeah,
what you would like to do. It's called informed choice. And
yeah.
so at least you know it, and you could either embrace it, because this is not like believing in Santa Claus. There's
No.
actually, Earth has a frequency. Is it like 7.83?
Well, it has very well. There, it's somewhat dynamic, but yes. But
Yes.
the main thing, if you have pain, go outdoors and stand on the earth for 30 minutes. Then you'll
So
get
30
your.
minutes. So Gina was asking that question. You've addressed it several times. So you suggest every day 30 minutes barefoot at least?
If you want to sleep better, go and do it 30 minutes before you go to bed. If you get
Okay.
up in the morning and you don't want the aches and pains and stiffness, and you want to just come up and be present on purpose, ground for 30 minutes as soon as you get up. It's going to change your life.
So for those of us who are grounding while we're sleeping, what are the benefits for us?
Well, I would say the majority of the healing occurs during sleep. So you want to be grounded. You want to put the fire out, the inflammation out while you're sleeping. So that way the body can restore itself and rebuild itself. So you can recover and get up and do it again.
Mm.
Because it's about recovery. We have hundreds of the most elite athletes in the world who all use grounding. They have for years, some of them the Tour de France, going all the way back to 203. To them, it's about one thing: recovery. I can ground no matter what happens to me. I can ground and I heal up during the night, and I can get up and I can go again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And performers, I mean, a lot of our performers that everybody knows, I mean, these are athletes. I mean, they have to get up and perform every day, and they're high output people, and they have to recover. So grounding plays a big role, but it's not for them to go out and say, I ground. They don't even know what it is. Their doctors are the ones that are
I was
grounding them.
grounding. I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
So most of us know instinctually that
Yes.
that's, we feel better when we walk on the beach. Well, is it the being on vacation, or is it being away from all our problems? Is it being, well, now I know that the earth is reducing the inflammation in my body.
It's grounding your body,
That's
grounding out
right.
the inflammation.
That's right. Okay. So another thing that I'm noticing when I've been grounding is that, as you know, Dr. Suhas Shirsagar,
Hmm.
change your schedule, change your life. He's an
Right.
Ayurvedic medical
Yes.
doctor.
Yes.
Dr.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So the last time he was on, we were talking about self-care and the Ayurvedic way. And
Uh-huh.
so one of the things he suggested is that I do the tongue scraping, and I've been doing that now religiously, where I
Uh-huh.
used to do like maybe oil pulling, but now I've been
Right.
doing the tongue scraping as well.
Right.
And I've been noticing a lot more slime coming out of my tongue. I know that's too much information, but is that it's coming out of my body?
When you ground, everything changes. You return to normal,
Mm-hmm.
and things that um, it's abnormal to have pain in the human body. I mean, the body's a healing thing. If you hurt yourself, the body heals up and recovers. To have ongoing chronic pain, to have degenerative health disorders like lupus, MS, diabetes, cancer, all of these things, that is not normal. The body was not designed that way. Nature
Yes.
got us this way, got us where we are. It didn't have those things to deal with. It really is this last 100 years, and more specifically in 1960, we invented plastics. We've only had plastics for 60 years. We put them on our shoes, then we put them on our floors. Our carpets are all plastic. Our mattresses, many of our covering, our beds are plastic. Everything is plastic. We can't touch the earth. We lost our ground. Now we're charged with static electricity, which affects you just as much as anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And it just goes on and on. So
Okay. Do you know
think
what
of your
MC?
think of your grandparents. They didn't have all these health disorders.
That's right. Well, and we think that we're so evolved, and we're, like you said, what is the cost? What is the price we're paying? So
Yeah.
Sherry, I may need a little bit of help here. I said, if you have MCS, I don't know what that is. The smell of these mats is intolerable. I think grounding helps, but couldn't stand the smell. I don't smell anything. Have you changed that? What is
Um,
MCS?
Now I don't know.
Can you say what that is if you
It's a
can?
sensitivity. I mean, it's for sure a sensitivity. Now, people who are sensitive, ultra sensitive, basically their adrenals are blown,
Mm-hmm.
and so they're in a chronically elevated sympathetic state. The parasympathetic can no longer modulate
Mm-hmm.
because of the exhausted adrenals, and so their bodies are more sensitive to everything. And so if they, there are other people who knock these mats off and sell them. I don't know who she got it from, where she got it from, but we
Yeah.
don't put any mats out there that are, they're all,
I'm very
they're,
sensitive.
yes,
I can smell when my neighbor down the street passes gas. I mean, I have a very
right,
sensitive nose,
right,
and I cannot smell anything with
yeah,
these mats. If somebody
right.
purchases a mat, and it smells, can they return it?
Of course.
Okay.
I mean, any product you buy whatsoever is going to have some natural outgassing, you know, but it's not anything. These are all outgassed before we even accept them.
Yeah.
But the main thing that about that electrical sensitivity, whether she grounds with the mat or not, she needs to ground, because if she can get grounded, it will restore the adrenals.
So you recommend that if she doesn't want to buy a mat, that she walk barefoot half an hour
Fine,
every day,
at
or
least,
stand, or
or
stand.
more, because her issues are not the electrical sensitivities and the other sensitivities. It's her adrenals are blown. I mean, her exhausted adrenals. She needs to recover the adrenal function, which will modulate, all the sensitive. It's why do some people are sensitive and why are some people not? It has 100% to do with adrenals,
Okay.
and we've
Okay.
learned this over the years.
Amazing, amazing. Um, okay, let's see. You guys are asking some great questions. So let me go back to that. So I hope we answered your question, Shari. And if there's a,
Yeah.
if we,
Okay.
we're going to have to put a close to this. This is a great question. Can you just use the smaller one for your bodies, the smaller mat? For me, when I secure the mat around the bed, so I'm going to show this. This is my little show and tell. You
Okay.
see how this is underneath and it's secured. So this is
Right.
for a full size or queen, and this is for an extra king. What is it? California king? Is that what it is, or thick
Uh,
pad?
yes, for a California king.
And this is for what my bed is, and I have like maybe 18 inches, so it's pretty thick, and it's secure. So I put the sheets over it, so it doesn't move around. It's steady. With the
Right.
pad, would you be able to? Because when I laid my parents, I put the pad. I just wanted to test them, and I laid the pad on them, and eventually, them holding it,
Uh-huh.
they were able to ground, um, but when you move around, you might lose it. Or
Right.
how can you use? Can you put this under the sheets too?
I think that's what she's referring to. And yes, you can do that. A lot of people who do it that way. They just put the mat in their bed and sleep directly on it.
So
The little
put it
one.
directly and now the clothing. So if I put my feet on the mat, I'm grounding. But if I have my pajamas on or clothing or socks on my feet, how do I do I still, is there still a conduction? Do I still ground?
Yeah, basically what happens is you put we recommend you put it under the mattress or under the sheet, on the mattress under the sheet. So when you lay down, your body is going to be perspiring, and it's going to hydrate your nightwear, and it's going to hydrate your sheet, and it's going to make a conductive path between the mat and yourself, and you will be grounded. Now, if you have a lot of clothing on and heavy flannel sheets, you're not going to get the grounding benefit that you would otherwise. This is the dilemma of this whole thing. This isn't the end of the road. This is the best we can do to get people grounded right now for as least amount of money possible and get them the best benefits we can. Many people who buy these mats actually sleep on them. And when they tell me they do that, then I know that they have lupus, MS, arthritis, flaring arthritis. They have major health issues,
Mm-hmm.
and they recover. Some people put it across the bottom half of the bed and just have their legs and feet over on it directly. Some people, they do what feels good or what serves them. Some people will put it across the bed sideways so two people can sleep on it and have bare skin against it. Sleeping on it 100% is a little awkward, but it's just people have to do what they have to do. It depends on how much their health is compromised.
Yes.
But once you get fairly well, or you get the inflammation under control in your body, then sleeping on putting it under the sheet and sleeping on it works great. But if your lifestyle is such that you're creating more inflammation than your body can recover from daily, I mean, there's lots of issues. I don't have all the answers, but I guarantee you, if you get grounded, well, you are an example.
Yeah.
Your experience is more typical.
Yeah. And I don't have major health issues because I didn't allow diagnosis to define me. I knew that there was a root cause and I needed to figure out what the root cause was. And so, I mean, I had my niece step on my foot this weekend. Last weekend, we were at a wedding and she stepped with her heel just pierced like the bottom of my foot. And I went, okay, I'm just going to ground. I'm just going to go ground in my pad. And it was so much better the next day. Okay, so Aaron asked the question, does the pad just plugs into the outlet or does it take a wire to go outside? That's a great question.
Yes.
And go ahead, Clint.
If you live in a home that was built in the late 60s and later, they generally all have an electrical ground, third pin on the outlet. And it is connected to a ground rod in the earth somewhere in your home, outside your home. So you just plug these mats come with an adapter. You put it in, then you plug the pad into it. But you have a tester that actually tests your outlet, tells you that it's grounded or not. If it's not grounded, then the options are you either have to call an electrician, have them come fix it, or you have to get a ground rod, put it outside your window, and you do have to run the wire inside. That's a temporary situation but an electrician will put you in a dedicated ground, any number of things. But 90% of the people just plug it into the electrical outlet because most everything is grounded today.
Yeah. I went to a restaurant in Orlando, and I went to ground. I wanted to check because they had the 3-prong outlets.
Right.
Not one of the outlets was grounded. So I was not able to, I didn't want to. So that's something that you just put it directly into the outlet, which is so great. But let's say if I wanted to go out in nature, I could use the little grounding, the little grounding thing.
Yes.
Okay. So, and Clint, I want to, if somebody has that condition where they're very sensitive and they purchase the mat and it smells, for them, because I cannot smell anything, and I've been around this, and I am very sensitive to. I get asthma when it comes to smells. So I don't know if I have that condition too, but I don't smell it. I don't know if that was a bad batch, or that people can return it. It's 100%.
Well, but there are other people out there knocking these things off, and a lot of China stuff, and there's some people don't understand that this has to be for biological use.
Okay. So let's see. Yes, and Gina, she says she usually barefoot outside the summer growing up, and she was healthy and happy. But there you go. There you go. So let's see. I think that I don't see any more multiple chemical sensitivity. You know what? I may have that. I may have multiple chemical sensitivity because I do. Smells drive me up the wall. Perfumes, the darker they are, the less I can use them. There's rubber smells. Like if I'm going to a tire store, I cannot be, or if they put carpet down, I cannot even be in the room. So I smell things that other people don't smell.
Yeah, it's more common than people realize. A lot of people experience it or are chemically sensitive, especially to the VOCs. And that's hundreds of products that we buy, and even in the grocery store, the off-gassing and the VOCs and so on. But but what you will find, VOC, and what you basically, your immune system is compromised. So when your lungs are exposed to it, you end up with a cytokine storm, or you end up with, you're sensitive to it. You can feel it. I mean, and so you have to restore, again, this is about the adrenals. You have to restore the adrenals, then you'll be able to tolerate those things. You'll find that your asthma goes away. You will find that your chemical sensitivities over time goes away. But you have to get grounded, stay grounded. You have to sleep grounded to recover, because it takes a few years to restore your adrenals fully.
Wow, wow. So with that in mind, you had mentioned about you had said something that just triggered a thought. But I'll just let that go, because you had mentioned something that just triggered a question. Could someone have a healing crisis as
Yes.
they're getting, okay, can you address that real quick?
Yes, basically the people who have what they call a healing crisis. And there's a lot of doctors and so on say, well, there is no such thing. And but what we have is we have done a lot of biofeedback, and where we can actually see how the nervous system and how O2 saturation and just everything that goes on in the body. And we see what happens when a person gets grounded with patches, let's say. 10 minutes, you won't see hardly any change in the body. Then all of a sudden, the heart rate variability starts to take off. I mean, it's like taking a charge off and just releasing everything. Your respiration changes, becomes more rhythmic. Your O2 saturation increases, and it goes on and on and on in other measurements and parameters that aren't commonly understood. But anyhow, so we know that there's a big change that takes place 10 minutes. So that's why I always say 30 minutes. That way I know you're getting 20 minutes of good ground, and your blood's going to circulate 20, 30 times, and it's going to have a big effect. So what happens is, let's say that you have Lyme's disease, which is a very common thing out there. And so what that really is, I mean, you have poor circulation, generally speaking. And you'll have spirochetes lying in the extremities, in the nerve endings where there's poor circulation.
Okay.
So now all of a sudden your blood normalizes, your blood viscosity normalizes and changes. And that's why this 10 minutes where the body doesn't change much is because the blood is building up the electrical surface charge on about 10 revolutions. And then when all of a sudden the blood's totally negative, that's when all the changes take off. So now the blood can go in and out of the capillaries. It's going to get in and out into all of these areas, and you're going to have improved circulation. You're going to have improved oxygenation of the tissue, but you're also going to have a lot of die-off from the spirochetes and other things that are in the end. They're going to flood the system, flood the body, and you're going to feel like you have a flu.
Yeah.
And it is no different than having a flu. And so, yes, a lot of people, they first get grounded and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, this is different. I can't take this. And so what I tell them is, you either experiment with it a little bit and then make a decision and go through it. Otherwise, ground yourself for 15 minutes at a time. Ground yourselves for a half hour and then an hour. Go outdoors, do different things, and build up your
connect to your source.
Get the inflammation out of your body.
Yeah.
Your circulation improves. But yes, there is yes, you are going to feel like you have a flu sometimes, because the body is going to go on a complete, it's a real cleanse.
It's you're detoxing. And it's going through the process. And unfortunately, sometimes people it's like when people do water fasting, juice fasting, they experience a healing crisis, which is a part of, if you can endure just a little bit of that, and you'll eventually get to the other side. For the people that have the smelling, this might be an alternative solution, because now you have just this little cord and you put it on your foot, which would be, and this is, I believe, is $100. So, I mean, it's so affordable. It is so affordable.
Well, I can tell you a quick little story that I was in San Juan last weekend with a group of about 35 doctors. And they invited me down, and I said, so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about inflammation and talk about pain and And the concept is you can't have inflammation when you're grounded. And so this is something everybody wants to, they don't know whether to believe it or attack me or whatever.
Yeah, sure, sure.
So I said, here's what we're doing. So 30 minutes into the discussion, I had 3 hours, 30 minutes into the discussion, I put a patch on every single person in the room, put it on their hand or put it on their foot. And I said, you don't have to tell me whether it works or not. This is for you. I already know.
Yeah.
And so anyhow, about an hour later, or an hour and 15 minutes later, we had a break. And one lady says, I can't believe it. She said, I can see without my glasses. And that's improved circulation because we see that the eye bed, there's improved circulation in the eye bed. Another guy says, well, I walked the other day and I got this big blister on my ankle and I just sore as can be. And I put the patch on it and he says, the pain's gone. Now I'm going to put it on the other one. And then other people went on and told these stories of pain relief. And these were doctors, which goes to show every single one of them have their own health disorders, their own health issues, inflammation-related health disorders. And I said, I know that, this isn't about that you're healthy or not. This is, you are living in an environment where your bodies are going to be charged and full of inflammation because you're wearing shoes. You're sitting under these fluorescent lights. You're sitting in chairs. Everything is plastic. You are totally insulated from the earth. The only way you can be healthy is you have to be grounded. I mean, your body's going to be compromised if you are not grounded. Your system is compromised.
Yes. And go ahead.
But anyhow, so every single time I do that, whether I've grounded as many 1,500 people at a longevity conference, but it's always the same. And one time I was at a conference, a young girl stood up about a half hour after it started, and she'd gotten grounded, and she got up and stood up and she was in tears. And she says, how come somebody hasn't told me about this? I've been in pain for years. I come here and I sit down for 30 minutes and my pain's gone.
Yeah.
How come, she was in total tears. How come somebody hasn't told me about this?
Oh yeah.
And it's,
I'm bringing this to my pain management doctors. I'm bringing this because it's so affordable. It really is affordable. Yeah. I know we could probably talk for hours, Clint, and I want to respect your time, and I'm so grateful to you. When Jim brought me my mat, and I was so excited to sleep on it. I was in so much pain. My knee was in so much pain. It was unbearable. Right. I could understand people getting knee surgery. And so I wasn't expecting anything to get better. I wasn't expecting to sleep the whole night. I didn't know what to expect. So I told Jim, I said, listen, I'm not a kind of placebo kind of girl. I'm not a placebo kind of girl. And I'm not a nocebo kind of girl. I'm a we'll see-bo. I wanted to say, I said, we'll see, Bo. And the next morning I felt so wonderful and I could bend my knee. And 4 days later, I had no pain in my body. But that's my result. That's my story. What will your story be when you experience ground therapy? And so I want to encourage you. I mean, if you want to go to whenyouneedafriend.com, click on the shopping cart or the shop bag. There you'll see the Lily shopping. And then you click on to ground therapy. Ground therapy, there are different, you can watch a clip for the movie on there. You could also instant message me at Lillian's radio show on Facebook, facebook.com/Lillian's radio show. You can email me at lily@whenyouneedafriend.com. But you'll get a free viewing if you want to watch the movie. Because I always say it's time to, you need to, this is my truth. This is what I've learned, and I'm really thrilled about it. And what I love about it is that in my career, I can impact doctors to learn about it. And they can, because doctors truly want to help heal. I believe that many of the pharmaceutical industries have gone into the medical schools, and doctors are taught how to prescribe medication. So if they are wanting to think outside the box and maybe they can offer this to their patients, the world will be about, that's my vision, Clint. Everybody, I'm going to be like Oprah Winfrey. You get a mat, you get a mat, you get a mat. Okay. So once again, go to whenyouneedafriend.com, check out all the products, all the information. The logo is like this. That's the ground therapy logo. It's red. And thank you so much for all the love that you guys are sending. I really appreciate that. And then check out, what can you afford? I mean, if you can only do the $69 mat, or you want to do something else. Maybe the smells are not good for you or whatever. But I have one, and I am very sensitive to plastic smell. It makes me sick. So
Right.
now I know I have that condition. I didn't even know I had it.
Yep.
See, I don't like
Multiple chemical. Yeah.
yeah, I do not do very well with scents, but at least educate yourself. That way you can decide with informed choice. You
Yep.
can make your decision. Clint, is there anything else you can say before we go?
Okay, I'll only say this, that grounding is based on physics. That's why everything electrical is grounded to the earth, to maintain electrical stability, to prevent charge, to prevent fire, to prevent damage. So all we're doing here, these products, they don't do anything other than they are an extension cord. They're connected to the earth, and they're connected to you when you lay on them or sit on them or stand on them. So basically, they're your extension cord to the earth. It's just conducting Earth's natural energy to your body when you're grounded. I mean, when you lay on it or sit on it. And as long as you're grounded to the earth, you cannot have inflammation in a grounded body. And you can do your own study by going outdoors and doing barefoot. But really, this is I call it a poor man's medicine. I don't care what's wrong. If you get out there, and it's a wake-up call from nature. We have disconnected from nature, and nature is who we are and how we got here, and we have to respect that and go back and recognize it, and find ways to bring nature back to our. It's like the way we're eating. We're changing that. We have whole foods. We have natural foods. We're as a generation, we're going back to that, where before everything was canned and processed and unbelievable. But anyhow, things are changing. This is one of the little things that's going to help everybody find their way back. All of our kids are sick. We got to do something. The only thing I can do is, the contribution I can make is get these kids grounded, because you'll see miracles every time you ground them.
Yes, absolutely. And so I hope that all of you, if you decide to buy a mat or not, go get grounded. You're grounded. Make sure that you go out there and attach to the source to get yourself feeling better. If you have snow on the ground, you have alternatives, but this is free for anybody who wants to do this. But you got to be committed every day, or you can just plug into your mat, and while I watch TV, while I'm cooking, while I'm blow drying my hair, while I'm doing all this stuff, and while I'm doing the classroom as well.
Right.
I don't, it's at this point, Clint, I think I'm a little obsessed about this.
Yes, you are.
But you know
Well,
what? I feel so much better.
Well, I've been doing it for, that's what happened to me. 20 years ago, I figured this out, and I couldn't stop. And here I am. I'm 74. I said, what happened? Where did my life go? But I get up every morning. I know what I'm doing, and I go to bed at night. And then the only thing that's on my mind 24/7 is bringing this forward and helping any way I possibly can to bring this forward.
And thank you for making it affordable, because there's a lot of healing modalities out there that are cost prohibitive. And this is, like one date night. Just sacrifice one date night and get your own pad. But thank you so much, Clint. And this is not the end of the story. This is just the beginning of the journey.
If you have any questions or anything that you want or need, all you have to do is let me know, and I'm totally available. This is what I do.
Oh, that's great. And again, you can go to whenyounneedafriend.com. You can click on the shop page, or you can email and then go to the ground therapy. There's lots of questions answered there. And I know that we still have some questions out there. Thank you so much for watching today. Please share this. This information is invaluable. Share this. Tell them to come to the website and to check out if this is something that's for them. And if it's not for you, there's the return. If it smells, or like for some people that we've talked about that, again, I will vouch for myself. Miss little sensitivity here. I've never had that issue. So, and like you said, there are knockoff products out there, and perhaps maybe that's not what's happening.
100% of the people, after they watch the movie, go outdoors and stand barefoot on the earth. 100%. Okay,
well, everybody has to, and everybody gets a copy of a viewing of this. The movie comes out in November. What's the date again, Clint?
19th, November 19th.
November 19th. which is just around the corner. These are great presents, by the way. It's round, but
Yes.
it's like, I'm like, I want to give everybody one of these, but it's called the Earthing Movie. Just reach out to me at Lillian's radio show on Facebook, or if you're watching this later on YouTube, you can just send me an email at lily@whenyounneedafriend.com or text me 407-373-5959. And so grateful to the smartest, healthiest audience in the classroom. I am just so grateful to all of you. Thank you so much for watching today. It's time to go because we could continue. So thank you, sir. I am so honored to meet you. And I know that this is just the beginning of the conversation. So keep tuning in. We'll continue to talk together. We'll see you soon. Say goodbye to everybody.